All right, hello everybody. My lips are chapped, my feet are killing me, and I've lost my voice. I know it's day 3 of knowledge. So today I'm going to be talking about Flow Designer. You might have heard it in the keynote. I'm here with Venkat Akoya. I'm the Director of Engineering. Venkat is a Senior Manager on my team. We've been working together for 6 years at ServiceNow. You might have, some of the things we've created over the years, I've had the pleasure of working with Venkat. Scripted REST APIs, API framework, export sets, so a lot of integration-based stuff. We recently got the orchestration team coming into platform, and we sat down together and said, what do we want to do for our customers? Essentially, there's integrations all over the place. You know, I go over here for a REST API, and I have to grab an ID and bring it back into orchestration. And we said, well, what if we tear down those walls? What if we build something great for our customers for integrations? And Flow Designer came out of that, and so did Integration Hub. What we're going to be talking about today is why it's so important for your company to build these reusable actions and why we built them, and it has broken down the silos within ServiceNow as well. So we're going to go over some topics. Why did we build this, Flow Designer and Integration Hub? What are triggers and actions? You might have seen some of this on stage with Joe and Steven today. They talked about triggers and actions. They kind of went through some scenarios there. We're going to talk more deeply about what those are. And Venkat's going to do a demo of how we automated a lot of manual processes in our own company around a P1 incident. And then how does this apply to your company? I'd love to get questions afterwards, talk to us about it, because we have a lot of experience in it. Obviously, legal wanted this slide, so I put it up here for you guys. Awesome. This is my favorite slide. So we set out really to simplify integrations. So we really wanted to say when you integrate with something, traditionally in ServiceNow, it's like a business rule, right? You have a business rule and you drop right into script. We wanted to decouple the trigger, which is something happened. So a record was mutated, maybe a schedule was hit, metric base might have reached a threshold. I don't know how many use metric base out there, but we have metric based triggers. So if something happens if you're receiving a lot of data from ServiceNow on an IoT device or something like that, you can trigger a flow off of that now in London. Service catalog requests, you can trigger a flow off of. You might have seen the train. Show of hands, how many people saw the train thing running out there? That's actually a service catalog request running a flow in the background. So that whole train demo was built off of Integration Hub. So there's obviously more triggers to come, but we wanted to separate the trigger from the action. So that means, what happened? What do I want to do? Traditionally in ServiceNow, what happened? What do I want to do? Write script. We want to say, what do I want to do? Wrap it in an action, share it with the rest of your company. So you can look up, you can update records, you can do basically CRUD operations on things. You can write a reusable script. You can send a notification. You can send a REST message to an outbound system. The key here for me is discoverability and reuse. So I can discover things, I can reuse them now inside the platform how many of you have looked for a script include and couldn't find it, or tried to share it with somebody in your org and maybe just copy and pasted the code or just rewrote it and said, oh, I didn't know you did that in your other part of your org. I could have used that. We kind of solved that problem here. And the right-hand side is where I think this is going. My personal vision and the vision of the team, which is how do we connect all these systems together so that your job doing integrations is much more easy. Flow Designer helps this. Integration Hub takes it to the next level. People ask a lot of the times, what's the difference between Flow Designer and Integration Hub? Not much, except Integration Hub allows you to connect to external systems, as where Flow Designer is all about your own company systems. So you can think about silos within your organization. They might want to create actions to expose to other parts of the organization to make a really powerful flow out of. A good example is employee onboarding or offboarding. How many things have to happen from different parts of your org when you onboard an employee or offboard an employee? This is one of my favorite slides here. This is, when we started on this project, I was looking around for kind of images of, in quotes that could kind of motivate people. So Conway's Law essentially says when an organization is structured in a certain way, that comes out in the software. And you can honestly see this in ServiceNow software. The orchestration team had orchestration. Integrations were platform thing. You'd have to have 15 tabs open to try to accomplish something. Notifications, you go over, do something here. You got to go back into orchestration or workflow. So we said, well, what if we band together and create an experience for our customer that's much better for you? And that's the hard part, because we broke down silos within our own organization to do that, and it shows in the software. So the quote is that organizations which design systems are constrained to produce designs which are copies of the communication structures of these organizations. So I kind of challenge everybody here to break down the silos at your own work, create actions, and then watch what happens, because we've seen it happen firsthand. The design goals here are no silos. I wanted a single place to automate. I wanted to be able to say, I don't want to jump all over the place. We just kind of talked about that. The discoverability. How do I once I create an action, how do people find it? How do they discover this? How do they know it's there in the first place to include in their flow? And then there's code reuse. So with discoverability comes code reuse, which lowers your maintenance costs. I've been doing software for a long time. I'm all about code reuse and maintainability in the systems I create. Discovery, how many people use, not discovery, how many people use workflow traditionally? Awesome. Can you run a workflow on the mid server? Answer?
No.
No, okay. That was one of the biggest things here. A lot of us have cloud systems, but they're cloud systems. They're not really cloud systems. They're behind an IP. They're IP locked, or they're behind your customer's firewall, so only you can access it. Well, ServiceNow has this mid server. So one of our design tenets was these things need to run behind your firewall so that you can create a flow, run it on the instance, or ship it to the mid server and run it. So Venkat has years of experience dealing with the mid server, and so that's what we did. That was another. So we set out on these, what are we doing right from the beginning? What are our tenets? What are our quality attributes we're trying to go for? And these were my personal top 4. Venkat might have a different top 4, but these were mine.
Yeah, they're the same.
All right, cool. That's what I hope you'd say. And that wasn't rehearsed, by the way. So there's 2 different roles here. So, people say this is super low code. It is low code for the flow designer, but it doesn't stop coders from coding stuff. It's the benefit of ServiceNow has always been, to me, the customizability. Our sales engineers can go into a company and they say, well, that's cool, but can it do this? Overnight, they make it do that by customizing it, and we win the sale, right? I mean, that's the reason ServiceNow is so popular, that customizability, ability to write script on the platform. We did not want to take away from that. It's just when you do that now, if you wrap it in an action, it can get used all over the place. That's all we did. So you can still jump into script when you need to. You can still do scripted actions. But we've created constructs around other things like REST and SOAP and all these different things to allow you not to use that script if you don't want to. You can always jump into script, but now you can expose it to the rest of the organization. That discoverability and reuse that I talked about, that's why it's key. The flow designer is kind of the pointy-haired boss. This is kind of me. I used to code a ton. Don't code so much anymore, but I can definitely put these building blocks together. I know enough to do this, but I might want to solve a really powerful business problem with whatever Venkat creates and exposes to me. So when you start doing that across your org, it's pretty amazing. So we talked about this, and how do we discover and reuse stuff? This action menu is going to be extremely key to the success of this project. If you see here, Steven kind of went over this as well, you have all of these, what we call spokes down the left-hand side. You can then drill into these and reference them and add inputs, but you don't know the details of the underlying implementation. So a flow designer can come in and say, I want to use all these things together. I know when I have something happen, I want to use some of these things, but I can't code them all. We've simplified that. There's inputs, there's outputs, and you can start to basically mesh these together to solve a really complex business problem in your organization. We also took some stuff from scripted REST APIs. How many folks have used REST API framework? Awesome. So we took a lot from that too. Some of the things that were popular, like Explorer, allowed you to discover stuff. The testing aspects allowed you to test and build confidence on your integrations. The inline documentation, I don't want you to have to jump to a KB article or a wiki. It's right here. So we think this is going to allow you to, and it goes back to that single pane. We want you to work in one spot. We want to be a modern platform. So where are we headed? I see ServiceNow as the centerpiece to integrating lots of different systems. Our system's super powerful, and if we can start to have spokes created around these things, especially with that mid-server functionality that we talked about, it's gonna be, more customers are gonna use it. I think it's gonna be extremely useful, and we broke those walls down internally for you guys. Where are we headed in London? So I wanted to, this is where we're at, this is where we want to go, and then I wanted to paint a picture of like, what's the reality, right? And you might have seen this today at the keynote. So we have Azure Active Directory, Slack, Teams, Active Directory. We're also releasing stuff on the store out of Band, Jenkins, Box, Jira, DocuSign, and the community. We have Twitter and Azure Cognitive Services. So in London, at some point, out of the box, you're going to get these things on the left-hand side. Coming closely after that, or if not before London, you might see some of the stuff on the middle and the right-hand side. But we're not stopping there. And I forgot HipChat. It's chilling out down there. I didn't see it. So Alan used to be my boss. Alan's the CTO of ServiceNow. Great guy. And he would oftentimes say, like, now he owns support. And back in 2013, he's like, I need to know that you guys are working on P1s as soon as we get them. And I owned the notification team back then. And what we did was we created a P1 notification that sent us the information to my dev team. Hey, this P1 has been created. Go handle it. So we didn't have to like get an escalation up to Alan and then he'd say, hey, Mark, there's a P1. My team would know about it before he did. So to cover this, that's what we did. That's 2013 though. We have visual task boards now. We have push notifications. We have an integration with Slack. And we can call somebody with Twilio. So all of these things I had to do manually before. If I had to get a hold of somebody, I got to send a push notification. If I got to, put this, create an incident task and put it on the task board for the team to start working on it, I might have to call an engineer, right? This is all manual stuff. I don't want to do that. So our product can do this now. And Venkat will demo this for us a little later. So he's going to essentially get into how do we take these manual things, wrap it in Integration Hub and Flow Designer, and have a no-code experience around this, but allow you to do these powerful things. And that's really, I think, the gist of it. There's actions within your company. Maybe you have different business units that are oftentimes don't see eye to eye. You can start to have them create actions and then reuse them across your organization. Then you can start to reach out to third-party systems and start to do things off the platform too. That's really the vision where we're headed. So Venkat told me this worked on his machine. So that's what he says all the time, and I believe him. He's done it before. Let's see if it works. So he's going to take you through this example here and how we made this happen.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Thanks for that. It worked on my machine slide. Actually, it worked on my machine, but it's always tricky to do this kind of live demo in front of live audience, right? Everything works behind a camera. So let's try to do a demo of what Mark just said. Before jumping into the demo, I just want to highlight a couple of points. As Mark mentioned, we want to say one thing here. Flow Designer is not just a low-code solution. It is more about discoverability and reusability of these actions. So I'm going to demonstrate a couple of those aspects during the demo. So for our demo, we picked up standard storyline. Whenever a P1 instance is created, you want to notify your teams as soon as you can and let them know what happened. I added a bit of color to this story. In this fictitious demo, how many have watched the Avengers movie? Okay, we got a couple of folks here. So I happened to watch that movie during creating this demo, so I said, okay, let me add the theme of Avengers here. So the idea here is SHIELD, which is the Avengers organization, is using ServiceNow for their support system. So someone called them, obviously, saying, hey, something is happening here. I want to call people, like I want to handle these things. So Galaxy is under attack. Thanos is here. For folks who don't know, Thanos is the supervillain in this story. And it is like, say, it's a Fred called up on his way to Creator Con here. And now the assignment group is SHIELD, and we are assigning it to Pepper Potts. It's one of the characters there. And let's submit. Now this incident got created, something happened, so something in the back end triggers a lot of automations and stuff. So somewhere in the SHIELD world, there is this Pepper Potts, she's the agent for SHIELD. She's watching her nice dashboard, and something popped up on the top here. If you guys observed it, it happened so fast. So she can open that and see, hey, there is this panic mode here. What's going on? So now, as you can see, there is a message saying panic mode, Galaxy under attack, and there is a link for VTB. So she can just open that. She can see more details about that incident, what's going on, or any more details she wants. And the fun thing here is there are other people who joined in this conversation. So now let's take a step back. What happened here is whenever the incident got created, we were able to create the entire Connect conversation. We bring all the agents required to handle that incident into this conversation so they can collaborate. And also we created the visual task board and added the incident to that board. So how did this happen? Let's go back to our admin page and look at the flow which triggered this entire thing. Okay, I'm opening the flow designer, and in the flow designer, there is this SHIELD incident remediation flow.
Worked on my machine?
No, it's going to work. It's just internet is slow, that's it. I will say that until it loads.
You always blame it on the Wi-Fi. It's the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so it worked.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so now one thing which you immediately observe in this flow designer is natural language depiction of the flow. So instead of having all these unknown blocks around, you can pretty much read what's going on in the flow, right? That is one important aspect. So if you are a process analyst or a business person, you don't need to understand the code, you don't need to understand anything, you can just read it as natural language. So what is it doing? Incident created are updated when assignment group is SHIELD and priority 1 is critical. Then what are the actions? If incident is created, then add an incident to visual task board and add a group users to task conversation and send a message to task. Right? It is pretty straightforward, easy to understand. The other aspect here is the data panel here, which shows all the outputs related to these different components available in the flow, and the components itself. Before talking about these components, I want to show you the executions page. This is another cool thing.
This is something that wasn't covered in the keynote today, but when we show this to developers, they freak out because they have all this information in one place about what happened when the flow ran. And we overlaid the actual image we overlaid the actual flow so you could drill into any part of it and see how it ran operationally instead of going. It's the same spirit of bringing things in, logs, all that stuff we get for you in one place.
Right, yeah, good. So as you can see here, it is exactly the same representation of flow in the execution details view with additional metadata like, what is the state of the flow, what is the state of each component, and when it ran, what is the time it took to run that particular action or subflow or whatever. So let's dig deep a little into this subflow. Here, what I did is I used a subflow construct to hide all the complexity behind creation of VTB. So VTB is one of the UI component where you can go and create this visual task board manually, similar to Connect where you can start a conversation manually. What we did here is we exposed those two platform components via scriptable interface and created actions out of it. So instead of having the scriptable API, which is like an obscure and hidden in script includes, we created these reusable actions. So for example, add users to group is a action which is hiding the entire script behind that simple input and output component, right? It is a Lego piece. Similarly, in this particular demo, what I did is I want to create a visual task board. If it is not there, if it is there, I want to use the same dashboard and add more incidents to that board. So that is complex logic which I want to hide from my business user or my process analyst. So they can just take that particular reusable component of subflow saying add incident to VTB board, and then they can build the entire flow easily. So if we move on to the else part. So if incident is created, this is what I want to take. These are the initial steps I want to do. The else part is triggers when the incident is updated. Whenever the incident gets updated, all these things happen. What are we doing here? We are searching for a specific keyword called call Avengers in work notes. And if I find that work note, then I will go and send a notification for approval from Captain America here. And once the captain approves it, I will go ahead and call all the Avengers to handle the situation, right? Let's see how it works in real world. So now, going back into Pepperpot's profile, so she's going and talking to other agents, like, hello all, how do we handle this, right? So now there are like all these conversations going on. As you can observe here, the incident itself is getting updated with all these work nodes. So you have a trace of what's going on between the agents and support people. Now let's say they say, okay, let's call Avengers. Right, so during their conversation, they added that keyword. Now the flow is intelligent enough to hear to that conversation and trigger things as required. So if everything works fine, let's see how it is going here. Okay, so things happen. So for my first two messages, flow triggered, but nothing happened. Right, it said, okay, so it evaluated, it searched for work nodes, and it said, no, I didn't find any work nodes there. But for my last execution here, it said, okay, I'm waiting. So it found the work nodes where there is a call Avengers keyword, and it completed all this stuff, and it is waiting for the approval. So let's see. I got my phone here. You don't want to see that. Okay, so here is so I got a notification here from ServiceNow saying call Avengers. So as a captain, I'm going to say go and approve. It will take me to the incident task which I just approved, and it changed the state to closed complete. Now I'm getting a call. Everything is working fine. Right, so now Avengers are getting called, so this meeting is more important for me. I'm going to decline that call. Great, so now let's move back and see. So as you can see, here is the execution details, right? Now let's refresh this and see what exactly happened. Okay, so everything ran, flow completed, and we got a call too, so we saw that. That's the end of the demo. So, Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay? It's okay? You got Avengers here.
Hey, I personally use Slack a lot.
Okay.
I'd love it if somehow you could Slack me when something goes wrong instead.
Okay.
So, maybe next time. Unless you can do it right here.
We can try it. We can try to do this.
All right.
This is a live demo, so things might go wrong, but I'll try. And whenever boss asks, you got to do, right? You can't say no. Okay, so to talk to Slack, what I'm going to do is when an incident is created, you want to notify people on Slack. So let's see what is available for us. What I can do is I can create a custom Slack notification and send a message to Slack. But I want to see what is available right now in system, right? So I say, okay, I want to create action. There is a Slack spoke already there, and it has some actions available for me to talk to. So I'm going to pick one of the thing available, which is post a message. And it is going to ask me, okay, what is your webhook URL for the Slack, and what are the message you want to do, and other details required to talk to Slack. I believe this is going to work for Mark's requirement. So what I need is I need to populate the message. So I'm going to say panic mode, P1 incident. I can't spell it. And let's get data from incident record. I want number.
So you can see there, he's actually dot walking some of the data from the right-hand pane.
Yeah.
You can either dot walk using that thing, or
you can
he's not going to show it, but you can actually drag pills over there.
Yeah, so you can drag pills from here and drop them there, but I personally like this again because it's way easier. I don't need to go and use mouse. So I go to incident record and I can say short description, and it is there. Add something there, created. And I can add more information as required here. Right, but it says you need a webhook URL, which is supposed to be coming from Slack, right? So now I need to go and create a webhook URL for this demo. Okay, how do I do that? Let me open my Slack app first. Or actually I can go to slack.com. Hopefully that works. Okay, I'm here. Customize, manage apps. Maybe manage apps. Let's go there. Okay, custom integrations. So in Slack, there is this entire thing called incoming webhooks, which you can configure. Go there, you say, I want to add an incoming webhook. And I need to select a channel. I don't have a channel. Let me create a channel here. K18 underscore Avengers. That's the channel. That is that. And I'm going to add an incoming webhook integration. So what it did is it gave me a webhook URL, which I can go copy and paste here. I can fill up other details as required. I can say, hey, my name is Venkat. Channel is K18. Avengers. Done. Save. Okay, it saved it. So one thing I want to highlight here is right now when I modify the workflow, I change the state of the workflow, right? Now it is in a draft mode. Unless I hit activate, the old workflow which is active is going to run on every incident creation or incident update. So once I click activate, then what we do is we go through the entire plan or entire flow and do the compilation, which means we take this entire flow and create a JSON representation of a flow in the backend, in the background, and keep it as our snapshot version and run it every time when the incident gets triggered. So let me go and say activate. As you can see here, during processing, it is actually compiling that entire flow into a plan. It is going to take a bit of time, not much, if it works.
Works so far.
Okay. Okay, seems like flow activated successfully, so everything is supposed to work now. Let me go and try to create a new incident. This time I'm going to pick someone else. So specifically I'm picking assignment group as shield because that's how my trigger is configured. And here works. Always live demos kill me. Okay, so incident got created. Let's take a look at the executions one more time, just to make sure. Now, seems like it worked. Or no, they're supposed to trigger one more time.
Refresh.
Refreshing.
No, maybe it's a trigger.
Yeah, there are like a lot of things going on. I believe this is a data center instance, so okay, it is waiting now. It's complete, and I am supposed to see something in my Slack. Let's see. First thing I want to see is, do I have my Slack app? Oh, yeah, actually I got a message. K18 Avengers. Panic mode incident, I hope everything was created. So as you can see, your requirement is satisfied with a couple of clicks here. You don't need to write any code here to get this integration working.
I'm okay now, that was cool.
Okay, great, thanks.
So the top takeaways here are actions really reduce code and they increase discoverability. This is huge for your organization. I mean, that leads to lower maintenance costs. I think it's really going to help. Integration Hub simplifies integrations in business processes. So if you have folks in your company that build actions, you can now build something really powerful. We just showed you connecting on ServiceNow with VTB, off ServiceNow, all pretty easy, right? And then third is spread the word. We think this is going to be really popular. We want people to use it, obviously. That's what motivates us as developers, is when people actually start to use our products. And just want to say thank you to everybody for coming and enjoy the rest of your knowledge. And we'll take questions from anybody that hasn't.
Yes.
How difficult do you think it'll be actually, or how much assistance is there going from the current workflow system to this new?
Yeah, we get that. That's our number one question we get. So we don't have parity with workflow right now. Eventually we will. So it's a use case by use case decision for your company. Take a look at it, try to, I would say anything new you can build on Flow Designer and Integration Hub, go for it. It's going to save, it's going to be easier, probably lower maintenance costs for you. A good example was I was in a lab last year with workflow, and we have lab assistants all around the area trying to help folks out. We didn't have enough lab assistants because the hands were going up too often. I sat in a lab yesterday, not one question. Like the lab assistants were sitting the whole time. They were bored. They were cramping up. So I think move there if your use case supports it. We're definitely going to have parity at some point. We're going to be investing more in this. And we're also going to possibly have the ability for an existing flow to call into a workflow you've already created, such that we can, kind of delegate to that, get the outputs back from that, and keep going as a stopgap. Our goal is use it now. If your use case, you can use it now, go for it. But if not, we're going to have parity eventually. Workflow will never go away, though. I don't think it. People have. It's been around for 10 years. It was amazing technology, but this is just the next generation.
Question here.
Yeah, I think the comment you made about it being discoverable is like key. How much do you think ServiceNow is going to fund building out some spokes that we can use? I know you were talking about some with the release, but I just think that that core component is probably the most valuable thing out there. And if we have to go out and start building all our spokes, it's just redundant. You know what I mean? It's redundant.
So the safe harbor slide was up there for a reason, so I'm going to get into part of the roadmap here, at least what I think we should be doing. We will build strategic integrations, for sure. But they come at a maintenance cost for us. So eventually we're going to be, that action search menu is going to be connected to the store or share, so that you search real time for things, you get results from there of other people, things that other people may have built and will maintain for you. So that's where we're headed, but we're definitely not, we're not stopping at where we're at.
I rely on people building spokes for sale. I mean,
but I'm saying like
we need a bunch of.
Absolutely, the major spokes we're gonna tackle. So I don't know your specific use case, but companies have so much infrastructure. They might have a self-rolled system, right? That could actually, you could build a spoke around. So it depends on what systems you're trying to integrate to. It's very well possible that we might have an out-of-box spoke sponsored by ServiceNow and maintained by ServiceNow that does that. But not every.
And a lot of orchestration stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Does that make sense? If it makes sense for us and makes sense for our customers, we'll build it.
Well, in the
Red
back.
shirt?
Yeah. Two sort of practical questions. So this can replace workflows, but you also mentioned it really early on that this can replace business rules. And it can also replace scheduled jobs, right? You can have these triggered
Yeah.
jobs.
Yes.
So with respect to business rules, the little bit of playing around I've done in Kingston, it seems like it's always an after trigger, and is it asynchronous also?
It is asynchronous.
Could I ever replace a before business rule with this and have it change something on my record before it gets committed to the database? Is that in the future roadmap or any?
Not right now. I mean, not right now, but it's a really good question. Right now, it's after a CRUD operation on a table.
Yeah.
It's not before, but yeah, we're aware that you can
I'm going
do.
to be using business rules for that.
Correct.
That's my only.
It's a really good question, though.
My other question was, and I think I already know the answer to this one, but with workflows, when you publish a new version of the workflow, we saw him activate a new version of a workflow. Is there something like a workflow context and workflow versions where anything that's already running, maybe it's waiting for a step, like his was waiting for the approval step at one point. If I have a bunch of flows that are out there waiting for a step, and I suddenly activate a new version of that flow, that's not going to break it?
No.
I
No.
assume.
No, yeah, it's not going to break. That's key point there. So what we did is we create these snapshots of these workflows whenever you create or activate a flow. So your current existing flows which are running, they are going to work against that snapshot version. So
They'll continue to work under the O,
Yeah.
just like a workflow.
right. So our execution details view page, which you just saw, where I showed the status and all that stuff, it is going to work against that snapshot as well. So it gives you a real time, like what exactly state at that point. So
Can you bring the execution details back up and just drill into, because we never really went over the inputs and outputs. I think that's pretty powerful too. You get the inputs, the outputs, you get the logs right
Yep.
in line, with context of what step it ran in.
Is
So-
it analogous to the workflow context? I mean, is it like a running thing that will have APIs where like you can start workflow contexts and that kind of stuff?
So right now there is no restart capability yet, but as we said, we are trying to bring that workflow parity here too. So we want to add all those functionalities.
See, yeah, you see here you have all your inputs and outputs, and you can kind of drill in, go see the record. When we show this to developers, this is like they geek out on this. This is like
So see here, you can see your logs and everything here, and then each step, what's happening.
So when we did the REST API stuff, we put so much value around it that we thought people would move to it, and they'd move their scripted processors over, and they have, because when they move it, they get this stuff around it. And when you put stuff like this in here and the test capabilities, saves you time. So you might find yourself doing new workflows and maybe even porting older ones once we get parity. But I don't want to oversell this. It doesn't have parity with workflow right now. So I do use case by use case for your business and play with it. See if it can solve your business use case.
Will MIDS come in a Kingston patch, or we have to wait?
Mid server,
It is in London.
London. So you can actually, correct me if I'm wrong, you can actually create a REST, outbound REST call and ship that to the mid.
Or
So
we do have PowerShell too.
PowerShell as well. So if you can't access those, like I said, cloud systems they say they're cloud, but oftentimes people put them behind their firewall, or their IT department won't let them access them outside of that company. So you can start to talk to those things with a flow, even though it's behind your firewall.
Yeah, I mean, we're waiting for that.
Yeah, otherwise you have to do, like with workflow right now, it's like scripted probes or something, like you have to do something completely different and then ship it to the mid. So that solves that problem too. It's one of the benefits of possibly porting. Yes?
So you said that the flow designer role was meant for more of like a business user, like a super.
Yeah, like me.
So let's say an action designer creates an activity that adds someone to an AD group, you specify the AD templates. What's stopping that supervisor from adding that action to a workflow, not meaning to, and there's no approval process, what I'm saying?
You could add an approval in there, in your flow.
If you really wanted to, is there anything like that?
Permissions.
Yeah, locking down specific spokes.
Oh,
to
okay.
Folks who should be messing in that area.
Like, hey, this person has access to, like, the action menu, they only see a certain,
CCM like one, I wouldn't want.
I got you.
Supervisors.
ACLs on those not.
Yeah,
There's an ACL that says you can't see a scope.
there you go.
Because it's the scope app, essentially,
Yeah,
right?
spoke is a scope dash, so.
But you
So
can
that's how you,
Yep.
So my team are really big on version control.
And, sorry, that's Chris Tucker back there. He had a huge part in this whole thing. I want to give him a shout out that, you know. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
My team are really big on version control of anything that could count as software, version or code. And you said that the flow gets compiled into a JSON blob. Is that something that we can have a hook to throw into our version control system?
It's a good question.
We don't want people to mess around with those JSON blobs because
Yeah, the
that is
problem
that is the main reason.
That's kind of the contract. So if we ever decide to,
Change the
Like
contract
change
from
that.
JSON to some other serialization.
we'll have to think about that, because if you put something stored away, we ever change that, we can, you know, without you knowing it, we can add stuff to that JSON contract, right? So otherwise,
Then let me extend the
we
question.
might not.
I don't care about the content.
Okay.
I'm storing the blob. But it's so that if anything happens, we can say, well, we made a change, here's the task it was, the change was against. I know it's machine generated. I know that rollback may be hard if you change something under the hood. But I've got a work item, an artifact that says this is the change.
I get what you're saying. You're saying I want to store it away just regardless of whether or not I might have to get back in there and tweak it later to have it.
Yeah.
Run
Or,
again.
You know, if something goes wrong and we need to spin up a new instance.
Yep. But you understand our concern too. It's the same like level of abstraction. If we gave that away, it's like that's a contract now. We have to honor that always. So it's a really good point. You just want to be able to save that away somewhere.
So you can do that in a, so if you put these are all scope metadata, right? So if you have this in a scope app, then you can commit that scope app to source control through the Git integration that we currently have. So yeah, you can save it away, but it has to go through the Git integration and the scope app. It's a global and that won't work. But do it in the scope app because that's better. Everything can be a scope app.
There was a lab yesterday?
Yeah, there was a lab, Venkat was in it as well, where they kind of created a similar kind of scenario, but you got to actually create it.
Did the lab go through like creating your own action?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, fantastic. I want to find that lab then.
Okay.
I can give you the number.
Okay, all right.
And there's a hint lab, and that way you can do it in your own instance.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Right there.
So if we're going to have process analysts creating these flows and potentially running on any kind of record change as a replacement to a business rule, do you foresee performance impacts of having flow designer over a business rule?
So it is similar to asynchronous business rule, right? So we use our background scheduled worker threads, which are throttled based on your instance size and stuff. So we see less impact on the instance as during the runtime because there can be only certain number of flows that can run at any given point. But if you have everything running behind using this flow designer, obviously they're going to get backed up in the event queue. They will get processed. We are working through performance. We are doing all performance analysis and trying to optimize how fast we can run these things.
We've definitely put it through the ringer as far as load testing, though. The last thing we wanted to do was kick off a bunch of flows, have the platform
Come down.
come down, and users can't use the system. It's not what we want to make sure that worked.
When you're creating your own custom actions, do you need an integration hub license to use scripts in that custom action?
No, as long as if those scripts are making outbound calls, yes. If they are on platform,
We can
no.
work around the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Currently, the biggest thing we've heard from customers, honestly, during this whole thing is what's up with the licensing around Integration Hub. So we're going to go take a look at that and see what we can do there. That's the biggest thing I've taken away. Well, the questions are parity with workflow. When can I port all this stuff over? When can I create new ones? And what's up with the licensing around Integration Hub? But right now, you can create scripts all day if they talk to platform tables, components, that no problem. But as soon as you use REST message or whatever, we know that behind the hood.
So why would you have custom action ability to run like PowerShell scripts? Isn't that, so if you have a custom action that's a PowerShell script, that's interacting, it's almost always going to be interacting with the system that's outside of
Yes.
ServiceNow.
Yeah, that's also part of Integration Hub.
So that is part of Integration Hub.
Yep.
You can't create a PowerShell without Integration Hub.
Yep. But we're taking the licensing comments to heart, and we're going back and talking. Becky Diaz is the product owner, and so is Josh Nearius. So we're talking to them, and we want people to build content. If there's barriers there, I had somebody come in yesterday, a developer said, I built all this awesome stuff in Integration Hub, and then my CFO said I couldn't upgrade to prod because of an Integration Hub license. So we're trying to figure out what's the best value add and how can we modify the licensing as such. But that's a discussion. We're developers, we have a say, but we also have to influence there with our product owner. Yeah, keep them coming, man.
So I know you're talking about the scope apps.
Yeah, Chris wrote all the scoping stuff, so he's like,
I've been messing around with it a little bit in Integration Hub. I know that so for the custom actions, I talked about PowerShell, if we wanted to create can we create our own spokes too, or is that just something that is downloadable?
no, you can create your own spokes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a scoped app.
Almost an app, not quite.
Yeah, it's a like Chris said, it's a scoped app. You can share it amongst your. That's what I was talking about, with the different business units in your company. If they created functionality in a spoke, well, just like we did, we have ITSM, CSM, all kinds of stuff, and now we can talk across application teams. That's why I'm saying we broke down the barriers in our company. I think you guys can do it too if that's kind of the way you head. But that's the power of it, really. Is those spoke creation isn't just us creating spokes and putting them out there for you. It's you can create these, and that becomes the discovered and reused. Cool.
To make sure that I heard correctly a minute ago, so if I'm writing a script in a custom action and I initiate any kind of an outbound REST message or something inside that script, then automatically that now counts as
Yeah, so
I would need an orchestration license for.
right. So what we do is if you don't have a license, we block that call, we throw an error saying,
Oh. So I can't get myself in trouble or lock myself into a license.
No.
No.
yeah.
No, we
it won't work.
wouldn't do that. Start charging you, and then you get a bill later that month. Hey,
We don't have
this was really cool, but you owe $10,000. No, that would be really bad.
That kind of is what happens. If I over provision roles or something, right, and then I get a call from compliance, at the end of the quarter, hey, you guys are over provisioned, and now you
Yes.
money and yeah.
So we knew people would,
Right.
drop into script and try to do that. It was just we blocked that
So
essentially.
I just won't. That's
The last thing we want folks doing is saying, I'll just use workflow because it's free, but then you don't have all the benefits, right? So we got to kind of revisit that.
So, pretty basic question, but specific to service catalog item fulfillment. Workflow provides a certain visual benefit for our regular IT fulfillers. So go look at workflow, see where it is in the process, what approvals are waiting. How does this compare to that as far as giving them a visual reference to help somebody understand where something is in the process?
You have the operational view, right?
Yeah, we do have operational view. I don't have that flow in my system, but we do have stages concept in here too. So if the trigger is based on service catalog item, there are a few actions which we provide out of box, like look up the item variables or what are the questions, right? All that stuff, all those variables, you can surface them and you can pass and use them in the flow, and you can define stages within this set of actions. Like you can say, after these 3 actions, this is stage 1, after these 3 is stage 2. You can create them in the flow designer itself. So when it is running, you can open this execution view, which we just saw, and it will highlight those stages which are complete.
Yeah, so we didn't demo stages, but we're happy to show you. If you want to stick around afterwards, we can show it to you.
I believe you.
All right, perfect. Because we're tired. No, just no. Yeah, if anybody wants to chat afterwards, come up. We're passionate about it, so we'll talk for hours on it. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.